This week, Special Assignment travels around the city of Johannesburg, focusing on the perceived problems in development planning. We meet furious residents who feel that the planning department has failed them and find out exactly why developers flout the law.
In rural areas, it has been said, we see the works of God. In cities, little else but the works of men. One would imagine, therefore, that planning and architecture would be of utmost importance to create attractive and practical cities to pass on to future generations. Yet the impression is that planning in South Africa's largest city is failing its people.
I'm disappointed, very disappointed, in what we're living in today.
Up to now, we've not been able, in our planning, to develop cities that can accommodate the needs of the poor.
My perception is there isn't a planning department because I don't see any planning being done.
So there's this contempt of, oh, I'm going to do what I like amongst developers. And they do, and they are. And it's the residents that are suffering.
It's chaos out there, and they're not doing anything to stem the bad publicity.
Johannesburg is, can I swear, is a shit city. And we are the things that are passing through this bowels called Johannesburg.
A weekday morning in Roodepoort, and raw sewage pours from a drain. Residents say it's a common occurrence here because of all the new development taking place. A few kilometres away, near some newly erected townhouses, more sewage bubbles out of the ground. Last year's cut in interest rates has created a housing boom as people move from Johannesburg and its surrounding townships to modern and affordable homes out west. Townhouses sprawl across an area once known for plant nurseries and small holdings.
We've got the whole of Ramsey, we've got the whole of Little Falls, we've got the whole of Radio Kop. It's just townhouse galore here. You just see roofs. You've got the panorama view on the other side. Then you've got the shopping centre coming up. As far as you can look, it's just townhouses all the way here. I mean, if you see right here, right in front of us here, more excavations, more townhouses coming, more complexes. It's just going, it is just sprawling, it's just developing.
While development may be good for business, it's overloading the infrastructure of the area. Apart from sewage systems that need to be upgraded, power is a problem too. Supermarkets like this one often have to resort to emergency generators. And yet another mega shopping centre is going up, despite strenuous objections from residents.
We have made big submissions. We have presented 5,000 signatures, but unfortunately local government decided no, they have to go ahead. People want to move into the west. We're grateful for that. It's good for the economy, but we need to bring, number one, infrastructure. We need to do a proper planning. At the same time, we need to make it look good to the eye. And at the moment, what's happening here with all these roofs, there is no planning whatsoever.
Traffic at peak hour is becoming a nightmare as people pour out of their freshly built townhouses onto old single-lane roads that haven't been upgraded in years.
People in that meeting scattered around.
Ratepayers Association members Louis Baptista and Irene Valentine meet to discuss what they consider to be a dire situation.
We don't want to.
Irene lives in Harveston, an area that has become known as the last outpost. Once considered agricultural, Harveston is completely surrounded by sectional title development. A third of property owners here keep horses, but they can't even ride on the roads anymore. Others, like Irene, moved here because they wanted a country lifestyle, but that's fast fading. Smallholders are being won over by developers' millions. Townhouses are creeping closer.
The developers have every intention of developing every piece of land they can in our area, and so those people who've bought thinking that they've got a piece of country, they're just buying into another townhouse, overpopulated, overdensified area.
She says developers moved into her road without any warning.
In October last year, we saw a land surveyor in our streets surveying the land, and then we saw little pegs going up all over the land, and that alerted us. We had been told on numerous occasions for several years that there was no development allowed in this area.
The reality is that the urban edge has shifted since the original owners bought their land. Developers say residents should accept the inevitable.
I think the city crept upon them quicker than they thought, and also I think it can also be attributed to this urban boundary that has moved in. Areas that have never been looked at for development are now much in demand, and they can actually be very grateful because one of the developers actually proposed to put in streetlights for the area, although the people do not want streetlights. They want to keep it agricultural.
Residents aren't grateful, and they say the council should be using their rates to upgrade sewerage, power and roads.
Council say they don't have the funds, so they're not doing that. Developers still have to pay bulk services levy, which doesn't necessarily get reinvested into your area.
The problem is that the money hasn't been allocated or spent in the area. It's going elsewhere, which we don't even know where.
Marion and Michael Blino moved to the slopes of the Roodekrans Ridge in the late 60s. They've watched the city creep closer and sometimes jump across the urban boundary. When they arrived here, their neighbours were peach and tulip farmers. Now they are luxury clusters and townhouses with exotic names.
You can't stop urbanisation, you can't stop development, but you have to guide it. What is happening is land usage is being thrown into chaos. If you don't decide we need so much land within a reasonable planning period, then what you do is you open the whole countryside to urban sprawl, which is very, very bad for the land because the smallholder doesn't know what to do with it and he neglects it. And it's very bad for the cities. If you allow market forces to dictate everything, you get an urban jungle.
And that's exactly what's happening. Not only west, but south of Johannesburg too, as residents of outlying areas move closer to their workplaces and better schooling. The construction of townhouses along the Klip River Ridge has incensed those living nearby, particularly as the developer has already built over the servitude that gave the public access to a nature reserve. Residents are angry that the council failed to take action before the complex went up. Basil Papatheophilo, who lives next door, says if they'd been involved, they could have at least influenced the look of the development.
Well, there's absolutely no vegetation here. We're sitting next to a pristine area, and the whole development doesn't have a single tree or bush or shrub.
The intention is to develop 3 remaining stands along the ridge. This means more and more people will move into the area. Yet the only school nearby is one for children with special needs.
In terms of the Gauteng Education Department's policy, we should have already had 3 schools, 3 primary schools and at least another high school. And now we're running out of land, and the Education Department is saying is where are we going to build the school? There's no land to build the school because a lot of the land that was allocated has been sold off to developers and townhouses have been built.
Joburg Metro Council says it is trying to control urban sprawl and is aware of infrastructure problems.
We've calculated the exact extent of the backlogs, where we need to be investing in the city and where strategic investment needs to be made in order to ensure that investment is protected.
After the break, developers who flout the law.
Did you know that all these expressions contract the skin and deepen wrinkles? L'Oreal's solution? New Wrinkle Decrease. It's not surgery. It's the first advanced anti-creasing cream with Boswellox to counteract skin microcontractions. Wrinkle Decrease. 28% measured reduction in forehead wrinkles. 76% reported visible reduction on expression lines.
Let surgery wait.
New Wrinkle Decrease with Boswellox from L'Oreal Paris.
Because you're worth it.
People change. We change our values, our perceptions, our image. We at Alpha are changing too. Joining our global partner, Wholesome, broadening our reach, improving our products, and shifting our focus to the people we're in business for, our customers.
Je ne veux pas déjeuner, je veux
Picture yourself in a new Citroën Zara Picasso.
Boss Intense, the new fragrance for women.
The women of Africa have always had a special way of carrying things. At Spornet, we're also using our heads as we invest in renewal, upgrading, and expansion projects that will turn a dream into reality. The building of a profitable freight rail network, powerful enough to connect the energies of Africa and support NEPAD. To carry us all from where we are to where we should be. At the heart of it all, Spornet.
Splish splash, I was taking a bath. Long about a Saturday night. Yeah.
Protect your outside walls with Wall & All, Plascon's toughest paint ever. It's the paint that lasts, not the dirt. Wall & All, the paint with a 7-year guarantee.
Office space is not there for some beautification of the city. It's there for plain, simple, profitable exploitation.
Sandton, which lies to the north of Johannesburg, is home to the most expensive real estate in the city. It's the headquarters of many major corporations. Homes that once nestled in leafy surrounds have been replaced by office parks and high-rise buildings. There seems no end to development, despite the fact that there is an oversupply of office space. Here too, sewerage is often the subject of social gatherings.
Sandton is the powerhouse of Southern Africa. People come to Sandton because it is that. They want to live here because it is a desirable place to live. We already have sewers that overflow and run down our streets. In my street, in a heavy storm, I wade my way through little brown jobs regularly. Yeah. Is that what we want? I'm at the bottom in the hill.
The roads
I
can't
end
cope,
up in the
roads for
SHIT
development.
at the bottom at the end of the day, because the developments are all up at the top and the sewer lines run to the bottom. If we don't have the infrastructure, we shouldn't be building it.
Sandton resident Rose Johnson has been described as a developer's nightmare. For the past 14 years, she's made a point of protecting her area from bad planning decisions. It's not easy. Every time she opposes a development, it involves attending hearings, tribunals, and site inspections.
You have to do a lot of research. You have to try and get through the bullshit confuses the mind to see what they're trying to tell you and answer it. But because you're not an expert, usually they can flatten you somewhere or other.
It's all extremely time-consuming. Council approves 700 million rands worth of plans every month and has a huge backlog.
They are absolutely overwhelmed. There are people there trying their best, and they are just swamped with applications. So it's taking a developer 2 years if he's got objections, and more. If you've got no objections to it, you're still looking at like 18 months.
Effectively, we've consolidated the urban in Morningside Extension 94. We've consolidated.
Because of the delays, some developers sidestep the council and submit their applications to the Gauteng Development Tribunal. It's an independent body governed by the Development Facilitation Act. The DFA's original intention was to fast-track low-cost housing in rural areas. But increasingly, its tribunals are making decisions affecting Johannesburg's urban space. It's a more expensive route, but much quicker.
That I appear on behalf of about 61 objectors.
In fact, we're getting more and more work in Gauteng, firstly because of the breakdown in the institutions in local government, and secondly because of the speed at which the tribunal is able to make very definitive decisions which have got to be taken within 6 months from the day an application was lodged.
Once the DFA has approved an application, it's up to council to pass and police the site development plan. The problem is that in Gauteng, the DFA tribunal and the council don't see eye to eye. Council believes the DFA shouldn't operate in areas where there are town planning schemes in place.
So from a policy perspective, it doesn't always use the same kind of norms and standards that the city's using. And that's where a lot of inconsistency starts to happen. You get an application that's approved. And one of the examples that we've discussed is the one in Gallo Manor, for example.
Gallo Manor is a low-rise residential suburb of Sandton. Yet a developer was given the go-ahead by the DFA tribunal to build flats. Ironically, the town planner for the developer is a tribunal member. No site development plan was submitted to council. Construction just went ahead. After objections from neighbours, council issued a stop work order, which was ignored.
We have a building that has 20 windows facing us, looking directly into us. It's a 3-story building. It faces every part of my living quarters, my entertainment area, my swimming pool. We have no privacy left whatsoever. We have lived in that home for 22 years. I don't want to move anywhere. I don't want to go anywhere. I like my house. I don't like what's in front of it.
And of course the whole thing's being built illegally.
And it's
Let's
being
not
built
forget that.
illegally. We've been informed that there are no building plans passed, and yet the buildings
Or a site development plan.
are erected. They are almost ready for occupation.
Council applied to the High Court for a demolition order, but made a mistake on the court papers and has had to redo the process. The developer, meantime, is working round the clock, confident that he won't be ordered to demolish a roof-high structure.
So you've got this culture amongst developers of, to hell with town planning, I'm going to do my thing. So they just build without plans being passed. And there are buildings going up without this site development plan, which you should have passed before you lay a single brick.
Brian Kirchmann is Chief Executive of SAPOA, the South African Property Owners Association, which represents many developers. He says they often don't submit plans because financially they can't afford to wait for council.
Often these plans are taking so long to be passed or rejected or just to have an answer that developers say, well, I can't hang on any longer. They've developed next door, so I'm taking that as a precedent that I can now develop on this particular land because I'm developing the same kind of property. I'm therefore going to go ahead and do it.
This is backed up by frustrated town planners employed by developers.
I think that because of this perception that you can get away with it, because the council will take a long time to catch you, there is a view out there that, oh, the council, no, we don't have to consider them, we just get out there and do our thing.
I think at the town council, they have a big shortage of personnel, and it makes it very difficult for them to handle the amount of applications coming in.
It's just a very big organisation, and it's a cumbersome organisation, and it's involved in politics. And the minute you get parties and party politics, you're heading for a disaster.
Council says it is making progress with a backlog caused by the amalgamation of local government. Slowness is also due to processes that have to take place.
The conflict that is inherent in the development process will always manifest, and we have to manage that, and then it leads to long delays.
Hearing is going to commence at 10:30 today. The venue is Committee Room C.
Each time there's an objection to a developer's application, councillors from the various political parties, who know little about town planning, have to go on a site inspection of the disputed property and then make a decision. Objectors complain that councillors are often disinterested and make decisions too hastily.
How can you apply your mind to what has been said for perhaps over hours in a matter of 15, 20 minutes to come up with a decision that's going to actually be something you're going to look at for 20, 30, 40 years?
Take these business premises being erected in a residential neighbourhood. Council originally rejected the application, but the developer appealed to another body, the Townships Board, which ruled in his favour. But he began building before his plans were passed. Council ordered him to stop, after which he submitted his site development plan. The matter was then referred to the council's tribunal for a final decision. The developer was instructed to lower the level and move the windows. He hasn't done this, but the plans have now been approved, and residents of this peaceful community are enraged.
I think the council basically has already let us down in a big way as well. And the site inspection that we had was really a joke. And you would have thought on that walkabout that we did on site is that the council was really more in favour of the developer and actually taking care of the residents' needs.
It's an office block. Clearly doesn't belong here. I mean, these are our homes. They're not just properties. We live in them.
Who in the council has now suddenly decided that now this is now not going to be a residential area anymore? And why is our money less valuable than the developer's money?
The council did what it says here in the Building Act. None of us sitting here would have a problem at all.
Now residents are having to resort to expensive legal action.
Why should we have to pay a lawyer to do something the council is supposed to do in the first place?
Council says development is often accompanied by conflict and that they can't give affected residents legal protection in every case.
Every matter can't just go into this tedious and lengthy, costly process. We are a little strategic about what we put to the courts and what we don't.
After the break, consider your neighbour's view.
Weekend on SABC Sport. Quarter-final action from the Nokia Africa Cup of Nations in Tunisia on Saturday and Sunday. Catch the highlights from this Friday's ABSA Athletic Series in Secunda on Saturday afternoon on SABC2. Wrap up your weekend sporting action with Golf Bag on Sunday night on SABC3. SABC Sport, your ultimate sporting experience.
Where are you going?
There's an easier way to protect your car. Netstar Sleuth, now only 699 Rand and 92 Rand a month. It's the most affordable way to get your own back. Call 0860 12 24 36.
From Hugo Boss. Boss bottled.
Dry, cracked heels can become painful and infected, and they're not a pretty sight. Remedy Foot Repair sinks deep into the skin to moisturize and repair it, leaving it soft and looking great. It'll also protect against or cure fungal infections and soften painful calluses.
I'm very susceptible to athlete's foot, and I find this cream sorts out the problem straight away.
I had very painful calluses, but Remedy Foot Repair made all the difference.
Call now to order or visit any of these stores.
Next time, use new white Amondi Rototrim. Amondi Rototrim, the better performance paper.
We're at war with each other, and let's face it, those wars are real. They mean we're at war.
Gail Difford is at war with her newest neighbour. Over the past few months, she has watched the value of her home plummet. Shortly after spending a substantial amount of money redoing her entertainment area, What she describes as a monstrosity went up on an empty plot next to her. She says a view of trees and birds has been replaced by bricks, mortar and prying eyes.
My privacy in my house has totally been taken away. I cannot swim, I cannot go in my garden without having somebody looking down on me. There's no ways we can ever have any privacy in our bedroom at all. From his downstairs veranda, if he stands up, he looks directly into my room. This is my biggest asset that I own. And he's now actually almost trapped me in it because I cannot sell it. Nobody's going to want to buy a house that has no privacy at all.
She's now taken legal action inspired by last year's Constitutional Court judgment in favour of a Durban ratepayer, ruling that local authorities cannot approve building plans if they affect the value of a neighbour's property. Town planners caution that those protections aren't absolute.
I think the Natal case was a very specific issue, and I don't think it applies generally and throughout South Africa and on every property.
Council says if you live in a city, you can't expect total privacy.
It's not uncommon in typical urban environments and urban living to find that, neighbours are able to look in. I think the issue is when your privacy is being severely violated. And in those instances, we do scrutinise plans from that perspective, and we apply a level of sensitivity to how we deal with these matters.
So summertime, maybe the impact is not as great.
Komani and Michelle Montague Mfuni certainly believe the Durban ruling applies to their situation.
Yeah, I know this.
A developer wants to erect a 20-storey luxury apartment block on a plot directly in front of their home.
In the evening, I stand by my patio. I can see a beautiful area of Joburg. It's green. There's a golf course across there that I play at regularly. I don't want to lose that view. That if this building comes up, that view is gone.
Because it's right in front of our house. We have shadow implications. We have so many implications. I mean, traffic, things like I was telling you before about walking our kids, down the street. Everything will change.
So we're talking an extra 200 cars on this street, Woodburn Road.
Why should I be forced to move because they want to build this, crazy, ridiculous building that doesn't belong here?
Council agrees that such a building is inappropriate for the area. But the developer has gone the alternative route and applied to the Gauteng Development Tribunal.
My little friend, Mr. Duplessis.
Komani and Michelle can only hope that the members share their vision.
We don't want town planners to allow this, shall we say, uncontrolled development of buildings of all sorts of types all over the city. We don't want that. As a resident, as a Joburger, I don't want that type of thing.
Some believe the reason developments are going up willy-nilly is because the city of Johannesburg doesn't have a vision of how it wants to look.
You just have to travel in any direction around Johannesburg and you will see imitations of the way people dream they want to live. Tuscan, Provençal, Cornish, any little faraway place out of South Africa, it must be out of South Africa, where they can feel that they are at home where they're not at home.
What is happening is that we are making cities to be areas where it's just the rich and the affluent that can live in them and not the poor.
But Council says its vision of Joburg as an African world-class city will eventually be attained.
It doesn't benefit us to allow development to happen willy-nilly in an unfettered fashion and then to create a whole range of problems. It makes a lot of sense for us to take a view that we want a sustainable city. It's about getting people closer to schooling and to other recreational amenities in the urban environment. I'm personally confident that we've got a handle on the situation, and we increasingly have a forward direction in terms of ensuring that we're doing the right thing in the right place.
They'll tell us that it's fine. And we seem to fall for it. This is what puzzles me, including me. I also fall for it. Why? I think because we all have hopes and dreams that things can get better, will get better. We can make them better and will make them better.
controversial world in which we live today, it has become increasingly difficult for individuals to voice their opinions. Now there's an interactive discussion program designed for you, the viewer, focusing on all the latest current events from sports, news, economics to political issues. Each week, experts will have their say, while viewers can SMS, email or phone in with their opinions. So join me on Interface every Thursday evening at 9:30 on SABC3 and let yourself be heard.
Do you make